So I am directly inviting Dr. Roland for his first talk on the introduction to short chain chlorinated paraffins and PCNs and basic information on developing related inventories. Roland, I think you can share the screen and start your presentation. Yeah, fine.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Please go ahead.
You can see.
Yeah, perfect.
Go in presentation mode. So this first presentation is on the introduction to short chain chlorinated paraffins and initial inventory considerations. Oh, wait a moment. Need to move this one. So the short chain chlorinated paraffins were listed in 2017 to the Stockholm Convention. Now I need to move. And they are a quite complex mixture of substances. So they are alkyls, and these alkyls are chlorinated. And we have a different chain length, and it depends on the chain length if a chlorinated paraffin is listed in the convention or not. So we have the short chain chlorinated paraffins, which have a chain length of 10 to 13, the medium chain chlorinated paraffins with a chain length of 14 to 17, and the long chain chlorinated paraffins with a chain length of 18 to 30. So the chlorinated paraffins are produced with different chlorination degree, varying of 30% chlorine up to 70% chlorine in the technical mixtures. And these variation options in chain length and degree of chlorination make them very versatile. And today we have approximately 200 commercial products and formulations which are in use. The Stockholm Convention listed only the short chain chlorinated paraffins with a chlorine content of more than 48% as a POP. However, also chlorinated paraffin mixtures with an average lower degree of chlorination are POPs if they contain more than 1% of short chain chlorinated paraffins. And also medium chain chlorinated paraffins would be considered as a POP if they have more than 1% of chlorinated paraffins. And in 2021, also the United Kingdom has proposed the medium chain chlorinated paraffins as POPs, and they will now be evaluated in the POP reviewing committee. Next one. So the short chain chlorinated paraffins, when they were listed in the Stockholm Convention, they were listed with a range of exemptions, including the exemption of production of short chain, continuous production of short chain chlorinated paraffins, and a wide range of exemptions. Also, alternatives are available. So in the POP reviewing committee evaluation, there was no request on alternatives, but when there was then the listing at the conference of parties, a range of developing countries have asked for exemptions. And so today, basically, all major applications of short chain chlorinated paraffins got an exemptions. So here the listed exemptions are secondary plasticizers in flexible polyvinyl chloride, but not for toys and children products, additives in the production of transmission belts in natural and synthetic rubber industry, leather industry, in particular for fat liquoring of leather, lubricants, additives in many applications like engines, electric generators, power facilities, drilling for oil and gas, petroleum refinery, also as oils in the metal processing. Exemption was also given for waterproofing and fire retardant paints and for adhesives. Therefore, short-chain chlorinated paraffins will likely be further produced and used and released. So therefore, assessment of current uses and assessment of the alternatives and substitution is important. Like I said, short-chain chlorinated paraffins were listed in Annex A. It is an industrial chemical, and currently in the POP reviewing committee, we have the medium-chain chlorinated paraffin. We will see how long the evaluation takes. At least it will take 3 years, but it could also take longer until the medium-chain chlorinated paraffins are also listed in the Stockholm Convention. So they are persistent, toxic, and bioaccumulative, so they meet all the Stockholm Convention criteria. However, the short-chain chlorinated paraffins are less persistent compared, for example, to the dioxins. We see strong bioaccumulation today in biota. Often the chlorinated paraffins are the highest concentration POPs. There is carcinogenic effects in rats and mice, and therefore the SCCPs are categorized in group 2B as possible carcinogens for humans from the International Agency for Research on Cancer. There is also reproductive toxicity to mammals and birds, and they have an effect on the thyroid hormone system and the nervous system in mammals. They are very toxic to aquatic organisms and may cause long-term adverse effects in the aquatic environment after they are released. Chlorinated paraffins actually substituted polychlorinated biphenyls and polychlorinated naphthalenes in the open applications between 1970s to 2000s. So before, also PCBs and PCNs have been used in cutting oils, paints, sealants, and were used as flame retardant in plastic. So all these applications now the chlorinated paraffins have substituted. And what you see here, what has happened is that one POP has been substituted by another POP. And for the industry, it is a kind of success story. The chlorinated paraffins production since 2000 have increased by 20 times, 2000%. So today, about 2 million tons of total chlorinated paraffins are produced primarily in China and in India. So this means every year more than the total production of PCBs, which was around 1.5 million tons, are produced and are brought into products. We already see global and ubiquitous contamination. So food oils in China have high ppb levels of chlorinated paraffins. Sewage sludge in Europe, here measurements from Switzerland, have shown in the tens of ppm range. And also house dust in South Africa or China have several hundred ppm concentration, which shows that they are very much present in indoor. Also, when we look to the global human milk studies, we see that now the chlorinated paraffin short chain and medium chain contamination the levels are comparable and higher than those of PCBs. So here you see a study in China where they analyzed POPs in different wild animals. And what you see here that in blue is that from the total POPs they found in these animals, more than 95% were chlorinated paraffins. So in this region where they made the assessment, the environment seemed to be completely contaminated with chlorinated paraffins, probably production areas and releases. Here, a study from Switzerland, which tried to estimate from the total chlorinated paraffin production, where I said, yes, we have about the production volume from different countries, but China and India is the biggest. How much of those are short-chain chlorinated paraffins? And here they estimated that around 20% of all the chlorinated paraffins, so in 2016, this was about 165,000 tons a year, is short-chain chlorinated paraffins. Now, this year, a Chinese research group analyzed the major industrial product for chlorinated paraffins. This is the so-called CP52. And 90% of the total CP mixtures in China is CP52. So they found that these CP52 contain 20 to 50% short-chain chlorinated paraffin. Yeah, you see here the analysis, 13 different industrial mixtures they analyzed. And when you quantify here from these average concentration, you come rather to 320,000 tons of short-chain chlorinated paraffins. And because they are mainly mixtures, it seems that we have about 900,000 tons of technical mixtures produced annually in China, which contain much more than 1% in average, more than 30% of short-chain chlorinated paraffins, and would therefore be considered POPs. The major application, and interesting for you, is yes, plastic additives in PVC, but also some other plastics. Then major application also rubber additives, additives in sealants and adhesives. Then a range of industrial uses like metal cutting and metal processing fluids. There are some car oils which can contain 30 to up to 60% of chlorinated paraffins. And then solvents and paints for coating, some of those, for example, for swimming pools, yeah, or road paints, or in other constructions. And then leather fat and textiles. These are some data from different countries and the major uses. And so you see that the uses depends, the major uses depends on the countries. You see here in Europe before, a major use were up to 80%, more than 80% in metalworking applications. But when you look, for example, here to Canada and China, you see that the major use there is PVC. So this would be then a kind of the task for the inventory to understand what are the major applications in Palestine, or to do a regional assessment in the Middle East. Yeah, because we do not have real data from the Middle East on chlorinated paraffins. There is an interesting study from a Chinese group published in 2021. They have analyzed 124 products on the Chinese market. And what they found out is that by far the largest share of chlorinated paraffins are going in the PVC industry. And another share is going to rubber. and some are going to polyurethane foam. So those polyurethane foam, Shireen, you have shown yesterday for the insulation of houses. And there was also a recent study in Europe about the polyurethane foam, which is used in houses, and they can contain up to 50% chlorinated paraffins. Two studies here from Europe. A friend of mine found that all the kitchen huts, I mean the suction system of kitchen in Germany, contain high levels of chlorinated paraffins. And then he started to screen chlorinated paraffins in the kitchen. And within this assessment, he was also screening baking ovens. So he analyzed 20 German baking ovens, and in 50% of these baking ovens, he found very high chlorinated paraffin concentration inside the baking oven. Yeah, up to gram per kilogram of the fat inside the baking oven. And the source is cables and other plastics in the oven. So when the oven is heated, here the chlorinated paraffins are emitted into the oven. And at the moment he's doing studies where he's baking a cake and so on, and analyzing how much of the chlorinated paraffins are then going directly into the cake. Then there's a study from Sweden. They have found in the laboratory, when they did analysis of samples, that at one point they suddenly had high chlorinated paraffin in all the samples, and in all the samples where they used the new mixer. And then they found out, oh, the chlorinated paraffins come out of this kitchen mixer, food blender. And then they bought 12 food blenders and analyzed the release of chlorinated paraffins from food blenders. And there they found that 8 of the 12 food blenders tested leach very high amount of chlorinated paraffins directly into the food. And also they assessed if this was then only one time and afterwards it was clean, and they repeated the use of the blender, but this did not lead to a reduction of the releases. So it seems also that there are some plastic parts or from specific lubricants which are continuously displayed to the blender and can then be released to the food. So also here we have a direct exposure source to food and to humans. So when we look to the life cycle of chlorinated paraffins, again here, yes, release from production. There are studies on contamination on production sites, around production sites. Then industries which are using chlorinated paraffins, like some PVC, soft PVC production, textiles or sealants and rubber production. From there, released to the environment and to landfills. Then going to the products, and here from the products over the lifetime, also some release to the environment. And at the end of life of these products, especially in developing countries, the products go to the landfills. And there are already studies on landfills and landfill leachates, which shows that the chlorinated paraffins then are leached out partly in these leachates of the landfills. And as for the brominated POPs, flame retardants, also here we have a direct exposure to the indoor environment. It's not moving. And we get a direct exposure here in the indoor environment also to humans. Like I said, the levels in South Africa study of dust was several hundred ppm. And we have a transfer because they bioaccumulate then to the next generation by human milk. So this is the WHO study on chlorinated paraffins in human milk. and a comparison with other POPs in human milk from the WHO study, and you see that chlorinated paraffins are already at the second place. Only for DDT, you have overall an average higher concentration because there are some African countries where you have directly DDT spray today indoor, in the last 30 years indoor. So these levels are higher, but it is already second highest POP in human milk globally. Coming to the inventory development, like for the other inventories of industrial POPs, we have first the planning of the inventory, national inventory team, identification of the stakeholders, defining the scope of the inventory, develop a work plan. For the chlorinated paraffins, we have also a detailed guidance to develop an inventory with chapter 1, the background of chlorinated paraffins in Stockholm Convention, the background on chlorinated paraffin production and use, chapter 3, how to conduct a chlorinated paraffin inventory, and then the different inventory chapters, including production, import, export, manufacturing using chlorinated paraffins, and the different uses and products containing chlorinated paraffins. So, looking to Palestine, most probably, or no, it is more or less sure, there is no production of chlorinated paraffins in Palestine, but short-chain chlorinated paraffins and other chlorinated paraffins containing the short chain might be imported for the use in these specific exemptions. So such imports and exports should be recorded and including these quantities. The short-chain chlorinated paraffins are also listed in Annex 3 of the Rotterdam Convention. So on prior informed consent, where producing countries would need to inform the countries where they send the chlorinated paraffins. However, at the moment, I think that this has not happened yet, but it would be very important for countries, let's say, to make a pressure that this happens, that they understand what kind of imports they get into the country and where they are used, that they can be managed in an environmentally sound manner, which I admit is very difficult in Palestine or in all countries where you do not have any destruction capacity. So for short-chain chlorinated paraffin and chlorinated paraffin mixtures, CAS numbers and trade names may be used in combination with the HS codes. So we have made a list in the guidance on different HS codes under which the chlorinated paraffins might be imported, but unfortunately they are not specific. So also other chemicals like the normal paraffins are imported under these HS codes. But maybe you can follow and check companies which are, let's say, importing under these HS codes, and then understand what kind of chemicals they have imported, or you get the CAS numbers at the import, and also by the CAS numbers, then they are specific enough. So also we listed in the guidance the different CAS numbers for chlorinated paraffins. So there are some specific for the short-chain chlorinated paraffins, but there are also ones for mixtures. So where you would then also have to check in this mixture if the short-chain chlorinated paraffin concentration is higher than 1%. But as you have seen with the submission of the United Kingdom with the medium-chain chlorinated paraffins, so also they are persistent and bioaccumulative, and maybe in 3 years' time we might also have them. For the assessment, to contact importers of chemicals and ask for information and data about import quantity of short-chain paraffins, but also import quantity of other chlorinated paraffins, and to check if there is information about the content of short-chain chlorinated paraffins. And here, not only on the current import, but also the detailed information on historic short-chain paraffin and paraffin, chlorinated paraffin import and export. Then, after you get information about the import of these chemicals, you would look to the downstream industries which are using these imported short-chain chlorinated paraffin and the others. So you would go to these downstream users and see what kind of products they are producing, and compare then this information with import information from the customs, and see if this fits together, and especially in what kind of product these chlorinated paraffins go, and how these are then managed at the end of life, and what kind of risk exists for workers and for consumers. So the industries, the manufacturing industries which are using chlorinated paraffins are those which produce PVC, especially soft PVC, those which produce rubber products, then paint manufacturing, especially waterproofing and fire retardant paint. Yeah, but also not all waterproof and fire retardant paint. So you really need also here to go to the industries and check what kind of chemicals they add into these paints. The leather production, to see what kind of fat liquoring they are using, and then also adhesives and sealants, especially here for Palestine in the import, especially for the production sector. And also in the production of some textiles, chlorinated paraffins are used. So all sectors where SCCPs are possibly used in the manufacturing of products should be assessed for the current and past uses in these products. And for this assessment, it's really important to talk with the industries and get the information from there. Because there are exemptions, you can also discuss with the industry if they still need the short-chain chlorinated paraffin, so they can get exemptions for the use, yeah, and for the transition to safer alternatives. Yeah, so you can tell to the industry that they do not need to stop immediately. Yeah, and the Stockholm Convention has developed a guidance on alternatives to short-chain chlorinated paraffins, yeah, which could help the industry to change to alternatives. In addition to the direct import of chlorinated paraffins to a country, also chlorinated paraffins can be imported in products. So like you have seen in China, 70% of all chlorinated paraffins directly go into PVC. So here then the PVC, which is imported and exported worldwide, can already contain the chlorinated paraffins. And we have developed a methodology, and I can share you the link. We had a pilot country, Indonesia, where we have made an assessment of the import of products possibly containing chlorinated paraffins. And for PVC, you have many HS codes. And these HS codes are quite specific. Also, you can look which PVC contain additives and plasticizers. And only those PVC might contain chlorinated paraffins. So the rigid PVC is not prone to contain chlorinated paraffins. And so what we have done is we used these HS codes, for example, for flooring, wall and ceiling covering, so construction sector, or really an HS codes for plasticized PVC in primary form, or PVC with less or more than 6% of plasticizers. And this is one result here from our pilot study in Indonesia for these different imports. And you see, for a country like Indonesia, the import is huge. Yeah, so here, but this is for 30 years import. Yeah, they imported more than 500,000 tons of floors and wall and ceiling coverings. Yeah, but I think most developing countries will import a relatively large amount of this flooring and walls and ceiling coverings for construction. Yeah, but also sheets and films. So in China, we have seen that most of these PVC foils and strips contain chlorinated paraffin as an additive. Yeah, so these, let's say, import data show you at least the total volume of this soft PVC or PVC with additives, which can contain chlorinated paraffins. For sure, only a share of it will contain chlorinated paraffin, but at the end of life, yeah, when you think about gathering and separating all the plastics, you will have then a big chunk of this soft PVC, and then in this waste of soft PVC, certainly there are chlorinated paraffins. And at the moment, we are starting to do some screening and analysis of this soft PVC and recycling of soft PVC. So therefore, you can look to different imports of products which possibly or likely can contain chlorinated paraffins, PVC, rubber, waterproof, fire retardant paints, and this fat liquoring of leather, and adhesives and sealants. So the assessment of imports only give an indication of potential impacted products and materials. So finally, further monitoring is needed, but it shows you at least the dimension of products and of the waste then later on. And we have these materials already in consumer products. Yeah, so here this is from European studies for consumer products. And so you see here many sports equipment, electric shaver, bath tube, pillow, other sports equipment, baby sleeping bag, plastic doll, game controller, bath toy, radio controller, toy pistol, power cables, handles, hammer, yeah, contain chlorinated paraffins above the European limit for consumer products, which is 1,500 milligram per kilogram. Yeah. So you see, we are really surrounded by these chlorinated paraffins, and finally, this is the reason why you find it at the end also in human milk at high concentrations. Yeah, thank you for your attention, and please ask your questions.
Thank you, Roland, for the wonderful presentation. Now I am welcoming the audience for their intervention. So please raise your hand and you can make your intervention. Yes, Ghassan, please go ahead.
Good morning to all. Thank you, Roland, for your presentation. Really, I was shocked when you started talking about the insulators, how much they contain from the CBs, besides the ones that we heard yesterday. So I think it's kind of a store for POPs, this kind of insulators. The point that I wanted really to ask about is you highlighted a lot about the PVC and their content from the CBs. What I wanted to ask really about the polyethylenes, the
No.
other kind, let's say, of plastics,
No,
polyethylenes.
so, I think it is not an issue of polyethylene. Yeah, I have listed another one where it's clear. This is the EVA. Yeah, specific plastic also used, for example, to make sandals. Yeah, so they have found chlorinated paraffins included, but it is not in the as additive in the ethylene.
This is a good point. Because polyethylene, it's being used, I mean, in agriculture at the early stages when you start planting. This is what I thought about. If it's there,
no. So I mean, for PVC, if you have 100% PVC, it's brittle and you cannot make a product. Yeah, so polyethylene can be produced directly into a foil. Yeah, so it does not need softeners, and PVC needs softeners if you want to make a foil. But I mean, you are talking about agriculture, and please Google one time for your products and foils in agriculture, because also partly PVC foil is sold for agriculture. So there might be, and then of course they contain 50%, 60% plasticizers. Yeah. So here I think it is interesting one time to look to agricultural foil, yeah, and to see if there is PVC foil, and then see what is the share of PVC foil. PVC is the cheapest plastic, yeah, from all plastics.
Yes,
and therefore. Also, there might be some PVC's foil in agriculture, and if you find PVC foil in agriculture, then you might come to me, and then I can find somebody who analyze it for free. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
I couldn't see no more hands over here.
Yeah. I mean, actually, in this area where you see in China this high contamination of the chlorinated paraffins in the animals, so I was thinking that maybe they are using these kind of foils in the environment, because by this you get huge concentrations into the environment, directly tons. Yeah, so my explanation for these contaminated animals, which contain more than 90% of all POPs, the chlorinated paraffins, my explanation was that it might be this agricultural foil, yeah, in China.
So just one more point about this point. Is there any study, up to your knowledge, they analyzed kind of POPs in such products? I mean, in cucumber, tomato, or whatever later on.
No, there is there is no study. Let's say to say you have the agricultural foil, or let's say the housing for raising tomatoes indoor. And then concentrations of chlorinated paraffins. I don't think so. I mean, we can do a Googling, on Google Scholar. No, yeah, but like I said, I mean, I think the strong exposure is indoor, and I mean, the South Africa, I think, is an example for many countries, and this study is really good. Yeah, I don't know if I have if it's open access. I will send you the link to that study for the house dust afterwards. And we have written a review article on chlorinated paraffins in the technosphere, and now also recently we have published on chlorinated paraffins in Brazil for the inventory. And the interesting study is those from China, where they have analyzed the different products. So I think it is interesting for you to have that study on the products in China which contain chlorinated paraffins. So this gives you some good indication.
Yeah, it will be good. Thank you. But you know, because in these greenhouses, you have like elevated temperatures and humidity, and I think these conditions increase a bit the concentration of such, I mean, CPs or other components.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I mean, additives in plastic directly are released depending on the temperature. I can tell you a very good example from Germany, because actually I had a presentation 4 weeks ago on indoor exposure to POPs from construction. And I started with PCBs, because in Germany we had 24,000 tons of PCBs in sealants and paints. Yeah, and by this still we have exposure in kindergartens, schools, universities, because especially these public buildings contained. And what you see there, that there is a huge difference between winter time and summertime. So when we do a measurement in such a school building or kindergarten, which contain PVC, PCB sealants, yeah, we see order of magnitude higher concentrations in hot summertime, yeah, and a huge exposure. While if the room is cold, the levels are much lower. Yeah, so you are absolutely right. Temperature is for sure here a driver, especially for these semi-volatile compounds.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Roland.
Yeah, welcome. Good, then I stop. Yeah. Yasser? Where is Yasser? Ah, Shireen has a question, huh? Shireen?
No, not a question, just a comment to clarify a point for the participants, okay?
Yeah, please in Arabic if you like. Yeah.
اوكي دكتور. بالنسبة احنا اتكلمنا عن الكلورينيتد بارافينز اللي هي بنسميها البرافينات المقلورة قصيرة السلسلة، اللي هي شورت تشين، اللي احنا بنتكلم فيها من 10 ل 13 ذرة كربون. دي ساعات بتكون شورت تشين موجودة بيور، يعني لوحدها، اديتيف لوحدها، او بتكون معاها ميدل تشين. ساعات بتبقى ميكسد بالميدل تشين، بيكون عندنا شورت تشين وميدل تشين ميكتشر مع بعض. فاحنا بس في حاجه مهمه جدا لما تيجوا تعملوا الانفنتوري بتاعكم، زي ما احنا شفنا امبارح، احنا بندور على الكميات والتركيزات. التركيزات عندنا بالنسبه للشورت تشين عندنا 1%. تركيز 1% ده تحطوه في مخكم، ولازم هو ده المسطره اللي بتمشوا عليها. 1% فاقل دي acceptable، يعني مسموح ان الاستخدام بيها. ما فوق 1% يعتبر contaminated، بوب contaminated. أنا حبيت بس اللي أنا ألفت نظركم لما تيجوا تعملوا الانفنتوري بتاعكم، إن أنتوا تحطوا التركيز ده رأي عينكم، وتعرفوا إن هو ده الجايد بتاعكم. ما أقل مسموح، ما أكثر غير مسموح. بس شكرا لحضراتكم، ولو في سؤال.
So, moment.
في سؤال قبل كده جاني في المحاضرة اليوم الأولاني، عن حد بيسأل عن اللوبريكانت. اللوبريكانت فيها بوب، اللوبريكانت ممكن يكون فيها شورت تشين او ميكتشر من الشورت تشين والميدل تشين على حسب النوع الموجود. واحنا زي ما قلت لكم انتم مقيدين بنسبة 1%. وضحت النقطة؟
شكرا دكتور شيرين على التوضيح. اعتقد انه دكتور ياسر مش موجود. انا بحاول اتواصل معاه على الواتس على اساس احنا نقفز على المحاضره الثانيه ما دام فيش اسئله، ونروح على المحاضره الثانيه عشان نكسب، وفي الاخر اي حدا له اسئله او مداخلات ممكن نخليها لاخر سيشن يعني للنقاش العام. فاعتقد انه هلا دكتور ياسر هو المفروض يحكي لنا على السامبلينج والاناليسيز. شكله مش موجود معنا.
طيب لا هو موجود. دكتور ياسر لحظة،
انا بحاول اتواصل معاه على الواتس.
Okay, I see, and then you do the auditing. Okay, I will tell. Yeah. Yes. Yasser? Yasser, are you online?
maybe not. I just sent.
Maybe India has a.
Yes. Maybe.
Breakdown.
Dr. Shireen, I suggested to have like 10 minutes break because Dr. Yasser seems not here to do his presentation. Maybe we can take the break right now.
I mean the alternative, the alternative could also be that I present the securing health in the world of chemicals. Because Suman Sharma, he will join in half an hour. That's the next presentation.
Yes.
Yeah.
The next is for Shaman. Yes, exactly.
Yes, sir. You can. Yes, to go for next presentation. Yes, sir.
ما بهجت ما هو مش هون مستر شمان مش معانا من السكرتارية.
But like I said, I mean I can also present.
For the alternatives?
No, I could present on the awareness, yeah, or we can take the presentation on monitoring. I mean, I am flexible. I mean, Karel is also online.
Yes, if Karel wants to present, it's welcome. Yeah, he is welcome.
Okay, yeah, Karel, are you online?
Okay.
Yeah, I am here.
Yeah, so maybe then you could do your presentation and introduce the monitoring.
Okay, give me a second, please.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and also I said that now the medium chain chlorinated paraffins are in the POP reviewing committee. So here you can also access all the documents of the POP reviewing committee. This means also the documents on the medium chain chlorinated paraffins and can have a look. Yeah, so I will check for the link for you and also post it into the chat.